Hi, hello everyone, and welcome to this webinar organized by Docstiy in partnership with Audencia Business School. I'm Alessandra, nice to meet you all, and I'll be your host for today's event on behalf of Docstiy. I see here that we already have some people that are starting to join in, so welcome everyone. We're going to wait a few minutes before starting to allow everyone to connect. But in the meantime, feel free to say hi here on our chat on Zoom. And first of all, I want to thank everyone for joining us and our panelists for being here with us today. I want to introduce you all to Benjamin Rethmel, International Relation Manager at Audencia. So together with Benjamin, we will explore today's theme, which is how to study in France with Audencia. So we will learn more about Audencia Business School and its academic offer, get more information about scholarships, visa, and housing. Moreover, we will go through the application and admission processes and also the possible career outcomes. You will also be able to ask all of the questions you want about the school at the end of the presentation. So talking about that, I would like to remind you that after the presentation, we will have a Q&A session where you will be able to ask direct questions to Benjamin. So don't be shy and just type all of your questions in the Q&A box here on Zoom, and we will go through them at the end of the webinar. So also, for those of you interested in receiving a certificate of attendance by Docstiy for this webinar, I would say stay tuned because we will be posting the link to get the certificate at the end of the session. So I see that other people have joined in. Hi, welcome everyone. And I think that we are able to start now. So without further ado, I think I'm now leaving the floor to Benjamin, and we will see each other in a few minutes. Bye.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot for that introduction. So yeah, my name is Ben. I work in the International Admissions Office here at Audencia. And just to let you know, here's a little bit about what we're going to be going over today. So I am going to talk a little bit about us in particular, because in terms of scholarships and housing, some of the information is very much focused on us and what we do, but some of this information you can use for anywhere in France, and I think that can be quite helpful for everybody. But we'll start off with a quick introduction about Audencia, talk about scholarships, and then admissions, kind of in a backward sense. But I think if we start talking about scholarships first, maybe some questions can be covered about admissions there. Then we'll move on to housing, because that's also a key part about the whole visa process. And then like we were saying, there's going to be a Q&A session. I'll try to keep an eye out for any questions that come up, but if nothing else, I'll catch them at the end of the session. So here's a little bit about us. We're more than 120 years old, founded in 1900. We're ranked in the top 10 business schools in France, top 40 in Europe, and top 100 in the world, typically somewhere between 60 and 80. We're known globally for our work in business and management. We have the Triple Crown accreditation, which is A, CSB, Equus, and AMBA, basically the three most well-known international accreditations, but we also have others. Here's a little bit about the city that we're in. So we're the sixth largest city in France. We're like the big student city outside of Paris. We're at 2 hours away from Paris. And we've got 60,000 students for 650,000 inhabitants. And the city, sort of the metropolitan area, is about 1 million in it as a whole when you're counting like all the different suburbs and everything. But it's a big student city that's not far from the capital. And we're not far from the coast if you like doing different water activities. Like I said, a little bit about our rankings. You can see some here from Financial Times, QS, The Economist, CNN. We have different rankings from all of the best known rankings and accreditors around the world, and among the 1% of business schools that have all three of the major three international accreditations. Here's a little bit about our international experience as well. We're very international. We have people who come from many different backgrounds and nationalities. Basically, our one of the things we're most well known for, especially in those rankings, you'll see many times we'll be ranked in the top 10, is for diversity in the classroom, because we feel as though being able to bring people from a wide variety of different backgrounds and experiences together so that you can learn from each other and not only the professors, it really prepares you for the real world international working environment. So you can see here we have about 34% international students coming from a variety of different backgrounds. And although it may seem a bit small for some, if you see 6,500 students, do keep in mind that we are a business school. We just focus on business and management, and primarily at the bachelor's and master's degree levels. I think what's important about us as well is sort of the return on investment that we provide for students. So we're going to talk about scholarships, which is the investment side. But I think something that's important when you're considering a school, especially a business school, is sort of the career outcomes. What are you going to be doing after graduation? And you'll see a little bit here about our corporate partners and where our graduates are internationally. But also, I think what's important is the career services that we provide. So 92% of our students are placed within 2 months of graduation, and we've got over 90,000 internship and job offers. And throughout the program, no matter what program you're doing, there's a career services follow-up where you're going to be working with somebody essentially who used to be a headhunter, helping you to decide on your career path throughout the program so that by the time you get to that internship phase, that's at the end of all of our programs, you have a clear idea of where you're going with your career progression. I think that that's a sort of tool set that's just as important as any sort of marketing or finance course you'll take. Being able to learn how to grow your career is something very important for people in all industries and backgrounds. And you'll see a little bit here about some of the big names that we work with. I mean, basically any French company you've ever heard of, we've worked with in some capacity or other, especially, as you get throughout Europe, we're highly visible, and we work with companies who are international with positions all around the world. So here's a few examples, but they go on and on and on. And here's the list of the programs that we have. Like I said, essentially we concentrate on three main areas. So undergraduate, like bachelor's degree programs, postgraduate programs like master's degree programs. And then we do also have executive education, which focuses more on the master's, and there's a DBA as well. But we're not going to go too much into that. You can always contact us at international@audencia.com if you want more information. But here's where I think we can start talking about some of the main points of our presentation tonight, which is about scholarships. So here you're going to find the different breakdowns of the internal scholarships that we have here at Audencia. So starting at the top is the early application reduction. This is basically an automatic reduction that depends on when you submit your application. If you submit the application before the early application deadline, these are automatic tuition reductions that take place if you're admitted on the program. So since this is one that's automatic and based on when you apply, you can combine this one with the other ones that are below it. Let's think about scholarships as belonging to, let's say, different baskets. And you can choose one scholarship out of certain baskets and you can combine them. So early application is its own basket. You can combine it with anything. And then everything that's underneath of it on this list, you can think of as another basket. And they come in a few different flavors. Some of them are merit-based, some of them are need-based, and some of them are project-based. And then one in particular is based particularly on your profile. So starting at the top, you'll see the Solidarity Scholarship. It is both for need and academic bases. So on the application, when you're applying for a program, there's always a scholarship application that's attached to it. So it's not like it's a separate application process for us. You're going to be indicating which scholarships you want to be considered for when you're applying for a program. And in this case, if you would like to be considered either for a merit-based or a need-based scholarship, the Solidarity Scholarship would be the one that you would concentrate on. Now, I should probably talk about how we define academic merit, for example. So on our application, we're going to see in a moment a little bit of what the process looks like, but basically there's like 100 points in total on the application. And depending on the type of program that you're applying for, there are going to be a different number of points that are attributed to different sections, say like 20 points for the English section, 25 points for your academic background or professional experience. They can be weighted differently depending on what's the best predictor of success on the program. So, our pre-experience programs are probably going to focus more on academic excellence from your university, and then maybe executive programs are going to be focusing more on professional experience, being able to show that aspect of your profile. But then what happens is that people are ranked based on the number of points that they get. So in order to be considered for merit-based scholarships, you have to be, a leader in gaining, a larger number of these points. So I think if you have any sort of questions about that, you can always contact us. Like I said, international@audencia.com. Also on our website, we list the different criteria that we use, those 100 points, and where you can find them and how you can see, one, the likelihood for admissions for a program, and then two, the likelihood for scholarships. And then I think if we move down to the academic or sports excellence, this is for the bachelor's degree program. So you'll see one of the differences between the Solidarity Scholarship and the academic or sports scholarship is sort of what level of programs these are going to be applied to. And so for the bachelor's program, we have an academic or sports excellence. So if you are also competing at a high level in a sport, you can use that as a reason to apply for a scholarship. And also keep in mind on these different slides, you'll find the link up at the top. So, you can always take a look at this list of scholarships later on if you have any questions about the different criteria. Next up is the Women in Engineering and Science Scholarship. This is to help support women who are coming from STEM backgrounds and are applying to our management engineering program. Like I said, diversity is really important for us, and we want to make sure that we have representation from as many backgrounds as possible. So this is one of those initiatives that we have in order to be able to support that diversity in the classroom. And then finally, we have project-based scholarships. So the example that we have here is for the International MBA, which is a post-experience program. You have to have at least 3 years of experience to apply. And that's really what the project focuses on. So on this link, you'll be able to click on the guidelines. This is just a slide, but if you go onto the site, you'll be able to click on the guidelines down there at the bottom to be able to find out what exactly the criteria are that we're using. So for this scholarship in particular, is like a 1 to 2 page project proposal using one of the 4 areas of concentration that you can find in the MBA. So like I said, there's a full guideline there, but it's basically that you will write that 1 to 2 page proposal and submit it with your application in order to be considered for these scholarships. So like I said, these are 2 of the baskets that we have, and I see a few people who are writing in some different questions about the sort of profiles that we're looking for and whether people are going to be eligible for certain programs. I think what we can do is we can kind of cover that probably a little bit later, because right now we're just going to focus on scholarships, but I do hear you, and once we get to the Q&A section, we'll be able to talk about that. So I do see some questions about what basis do you consider when somebody applies for a scholarship? So I think really it's these different baskets that we're talking about. So one are sort of automatic. It's based on when you apply. We also have need-based and merit-based scholarships. The merit-based scholarships are based on these points that we have in the different sections of the application. I explained a little bit about that a little earlier. The project-based scholarships are basically how well the person adheres to the project guidelines, and then it is sort of voted on or validated by somebody who reads the proposal and decides whether it's in line with the directions or not. And then other ones like the Women in Engineering and Science Scholarship is based on profiles. And so just to kind of move on to other types of scholarships, this is a whole other sort of basket of scholarships. And these are external sources of funding. So you'll see here there are things like French government scholarships. There's one that's coming up soon that's called the Eiffel Scholarship, for example. It's a really prestigious scholarship. It pays a stipend. I think it's like 1,200 euros directly to the student every month to help with tuition fees or living costs. They also pay for flights back and forth from the home country. Basically, it's a really good scholarship. And these scholarships, these very prestigious scholarships, often come early in the year. So right now we have our applications open for 2024, or the September 2024 intake. And for somebody who wants to be considered for some of these French government scholarships, the deadline to submit their application to us is November 1st. So that's something to keep in mind, that when you're considering applying to schools, and this is really for any school, not just Audencia, but particularly for us when you're wanting to be considered for this Eiffel Scholarship, applying early is key. Because like I said, that's example of the Eiffel Scholarship, the application deadline. The deadline to submit your application to a program is November 1st. There are other ones here like the Audencia Foundation Scholarship or different partners that we have for international loans, and you can kind of see those here. So like I said, these are from a third basket. So if you were to say combine early application with a merit-based scholarship, and then you were to combine that with, let's say, a French government scholarship, all of these things together can indeed cover tuition fees for a variety of different programs. So something to keep in mind. A lot of times you're not going to find these fully funded scholarships as something that's just like a one shot, just like one particular scholarship. The way that students are able to cover tuition fees and the living costs of their programs is essentially by combining, by finding these different baskets that you can put scholarships together in order to be able to cover those costs. But once again, the key to that is applying early and having the time. A lot of these scholarship envelopes, they start off like this at the beginning of the year, and then as time goes on, they get smaller, or there are fewer of them. So the key to being able to get that financial aid really is when you apply. And also, I think on our site, there are region-based scholarships as well. And we have full lists of them here. This is just one example, but if you want to go deeper into specific scholarships that you can combine with those other baskets, there are lists of them on our site. And once again, that link is up at the top of the slide. But I'd like to talk a little bit about the admissions criteria really quickly. I know some of you have questions about it, and we'll go deeper into maybe some particulars in the Q&A section, but basically you're going to see some of the main criteria that we have here. So English proficiency is mandatory. We are a school that's located in France, but we teach in English. So there are a few different things. You can either submit an English test, or, native speakers or people who did their education entirely in English, they are exempt from those requirements. Tests are optional, like GMAT, GRE, PASMAJ, SAT, ACT. If you've done well and you want to submit those scores, you will get bonus points. Remember those points that I was talking about? There's 100 points in total, and you get these points that help you to get admissions and scholarships. Well, if you're taking the GMAT or ACT, SAT, and you've done well, you can submit that and you can get points. But it's not a requirement because of the importance of diversity for us. Not everybody has access to test prep centers or some of these methods to get the testings done. So, in order to make sure that we're able to increase diversity, we focus less on the GMAT, GRE, and, we also include English tests that can be done completely online, like Duolingo. So those are the admissions criteria real quick. And I just want to walk through the process, because then we're going to talk about what happens after admissions when we start talking about housing and visa process. So let's say you're applying for the Eiffel Scholarship. You submit your application on November 1st, and then what does it look like? So you submit it on November 1st. It usually takes about a day or two for us to do the initial evaluation of your application. Now, if everything's okay and you have all the documents that we requested, you meet all of the different eligibility requirements, we will contact you to schedule an interview. And it's basically, a scheduling link. You go on, you choose a time and date that's best for you, and then we'll meet you there. Once you've done the interview, you will have the results within 2 weeks, and then you will have 2 weeks to register on the program. The registration involves returning an enrollment document along with a 3,000 euro deposit. And then that's how you get to the registered status. And when you're applying for housing, so once you're admitted, you will receive login details so that you'll be able to start searching for housing, because housing is one of the steps for many of these consulates when you're doing the visa process. It's just a really good idea, much like scholarships, to apply as early as possible, because once again, as you get closer and closer to the date when you will be studying, more and more people are going to be looking for housing, and then that demand goes up, the supply. There's only a certain amount of housing options, and some of them fill up. So do keep that in mind. I guess one other thing I want to put down here is that apply early, especially if you're looking for a special type of housing called cruise housing. So in France, there are two main types of housing. There's sort of private student residencies and dorms, and then there are ones that are subsidized by the government. And these are known as CROUS, C-R-O-U-S. So you'll see that here in my point 3. The cruise housing fills up extremely early. So many times they will fill up in the month of April for people who are coming in September. So once again, like I said, if you're looking for something that is subsidized by the government, it's very affordable. You'll see here on the sort of cost breakdown at the bottom of the slide that rent in Nantes can be like 400 euros, but you can cut that in half if it is subsidized by the government in some cases. So it can really make a big difference in your budget. And applying early for those opportunities is really, really key. Here's the breakdown of the different costs. You can kind of see, including not only rent, but food, entertainment, mobile phone. You can see for our campus in Paris as well. So the difference is that, in the capital city, the living costs are quite a bit different. Something you'll want to take into account when you are doing your budget. So now we'll move on to the visa process. When you're applying for an international school in France, there's really kind of two different types of schools that you're going to find. You're going to find universities and you're going to find international schools like us that are called Grande Écoles. Now, the Grande Écoles are like the Ivy League system in France. They're basically the ones that you see that have the international rankings, that have the accreditations, the ones that teach in English, the ones that are able to choose, the best staff. So when you're applying for a Grande École, basically the schools that teach in English, you have to apply to the school first. There's a selection process that goes on through us, and we make sure that you have the necessary language skills and academic background and everything that you need before you go on to the visa process. It's a little bit different if you're applying for, let's say, a university that teaches in French. So if you see some information and it's confusing, I guess one maybe piece of advice is that if you're applying for a program in English, you apply to the school first, most of the time, almost all the time. If you're applying for a school that teaches in French, you're probably going to be applying to Campus France first. So first, you have to apply to us and you have to be registered on a program. So like I said, it's not only just being admitted on a program, but it is returning an enrollment contract with the first fees, because the consulates in Campus France is the agency that will be processing your visa request. They want to make sure that there's some sort of financial down payment that is secured. So they do ask us to confirm that you have at least paid the initial deposit of 3,000 euros, and that's going to be something that you'll have to do before they will process your visa application. Then, once you are registered on a program, not only will we supply you with the different documents that you will need for the visa process, but there's also a sort of secure back channel where we contact the various consulates just to let them know and confirm, this person is our student. So normally all of the information is provided to you so that you can do your visa application. Now, you will want to see if there are any particularities about the consulate that you're applying to, because each consulate is sort of semi-autonomous in how they can treat their visa applicants, or what sort of documentation that they can ask for. So in some cases, for example, they are going to ask for proof of housing. And that's why we open it up to applicants that want to use our platform in order to be able to find housing, because many times students are going to need to find that housing before they're able to get their visa completed. But check with the consulate or the embassy that serves your region, just to be sure, because like I said, each one can be a little bit different. Some are also going to ask maybe for different bank details or some sort of financial documents in order to process your visa. So that's why it's always best to check with the consulate. They can change it at a moment's notice, and they really are semi-autonomous with the way that they can do it. So checking with them is the way to be 100% sure that the information that you have is correct. A lot of times we will be up to date with it, but even with us, with so many different consulates and embassies around the world, it's hard to keep up with some of the changes. But the visa process itself is not hard, let's say, but it can be long and it can be detailed. So the key is to make sure that you apply early. And the, I guess, unfortunate case is that many students are going to wait until July and August in order to start their application process. But that's way too late, because even though normally the processing time is just between like 4 to 6 weeks in an early time frame, as you get into July and August, the waiting time goes up by a lot. I've even seen 8 and 10 weeks sometimes, and so that's why you'll want to plan very early if you can. Like I said, it's not a hard process, but it tends to take a lot of time, and just making sure that you've got all the different documents that they're asking you for. Keeping in mind that each one of those consulates can have a little bit of a different process. So I do kind of want to go back here to talk about the process, because I didn't quite go over the platform that you will use in order to be able to get the housing. So I did kind of explain a little bit about how there's two different types of dormitories. So there are these private ones, and then there are the public ones. The public ones tend to fill up early. So the large majority of our students are going to be staying in some sort of private residence. And the difference in France is that a lot of times you won't have these large campus districts. I mean, we do here in Nantes, so we're right next to the engineering school and the language schools and everything. But The residencies can be in different parts, only because if they can't tear down entire sections of a town that maybe was medieval community at one point in time in order to be able to build these dorms. So they kind of have to put them in different places and kind of pieces of them. The I guess advantage of that is that you have a variety of different choices. And the campus district itself is about 15 minutes north of the city center. And there's a great mass transit system here, especially in Nantes, that'll get you back and forth from the campus district. But the residencies that tend to be more toward the campus district are more like tranquil and natural. They've got walking paths and there's rivers that you can walk by. So it's nice for a studying environment. But some of our students might want to live in an area that's a little bit more dynamic with museums and restaurants and places to go. But on the platform, you'll be able to search based on location or based on prices or facilities and these types of things. So I think it's a real advantage. Once again, if you are admitted to a program, you'll be contacted by our enrollment coordinator, not only to give you the steps of how you can start registering on the program, but how you can start searching for housing. And I think it's a really big component to how people plan their budgets throughout the year. It has an effect on the visa application that you'll be doing as well. So do keep that in mind. Also in Paris, there is quite a big difference in the cost of living. You'll see here, particularly with rent, but also I would say the amount of time to search for the housing. So do make sure that you use the online housing platform, which is called StudApart, as soon as possible once you're admitted in order to be able to really kind of lock down a choice that could be best for you. So I think that really kind of covers scholarships, housing, and the other things. But I see a lot of different questions here that might go a little bit outside the scope of the main points of the webinar. So I think what I'm going to go through is just some of the questions that you might have. I'm going to try to concentrate on things that relate to scholarships, visas, and housing. But I'm also going to try to address any of the questions that you might have. So there's one here about the Financial Times rankings, talking about Master in Management ranking and Engineer Manager track, and wondering about the difference between them. So I think with these two programs in particular, the important thing to know is that they're essentially the same program. The Management for Engineers track is really just allowing engineers to come into that program to have a little bit more of an accelerated program. It's much more compact. They go to school through the summer as well. So it's one of the difference. They have the same degree in the end because of the format. It has a different ranking class because the Master in Management programs have a specific length and type, but it is the exact same degree at the end. It's a M2 degree. They'll have classes in common with the two programs, but one is just for engineers. It's more accelerated because of the background that they have. Probably a little bit more tailored to the types of industries that they're going to work on when you're talking about cases, but essentially they're the same program. There's a question here about internship possibilities. All of our programs have internships involved in them. I mean, I think, like I said, one of the big points about us is focusing on that return on investment. So not just the scholarships that help to lower that type of investment that you're making on a program, but also this return that you're getting, which is the career path, right? Now, at the very beginning of the presentation, we talked a little bit about our career statistics and how more than 90% of our students are employed within 2 months. And we work with, a ton of different companies. There's 90,000 job and internship opportunities that get sent to us. And we work with headhunters in order to be able to coach our students on finding the right jobs and internships with them. And in fact, about 2/3 of our students get a job before they graduate, essentially because of these internships that they're applying for. So, okay. Do you ask for a specific GPA to get accepted, or do you need a specific GPA to get a scholarship is one of the questions. I think this is a good one since we're talking about scholarships, but they're really kind of two different answers. So we use the 4.0 system, like the US type of grading system when we're evaluating applications. You don't have to worry about making the translation, of your home grading system into the 4-point system. We'll do that for you. But essentially, what we're looking for is there's a cutoff limit of 2.0 and below. If you earn the equivalent of 2.0 or C average or below, that's not meeting our eligibility criteria. Scholarships are a bit different though, because when you're talking about merit-based scholarships, a lot of times it's more competitive. So I think I talked about this a couple of times earlier on, but on our applications, there's 100 points in total, and how many points you gain in the different sections determines whether you're admitted or not. And then if you apply for a merit-based scholarship, we rank people based on the number of points that they get. And the people who score the highest get the highest percentage in these merit-based scholarships. And then we might have, second and third section that'll have lower percentages. So some of the merit-based scholarships, let's say, cover 20%. The top performers will get that 20%. The next one down might get 15. The next one down might get 10. But yeah, it is based on performance, and GPA is a big part of the way that we evaluate a lot of applications for pre-experience programs. So way at the beginning of my presentation, I talked about how we focus on sort of bachelor's programs, master's programs, and executive programs. Executive programs focus less on GPA and more on professional experience, but for bachelor's and master's, pre-experience master's programs, GPA is definitely a significant amount. So share the PowerPoint with you. I get a couple of requests for that. I would just say, could you email me at international@audencia.com, and you can get it there. Otherwise, I think that would probably be the best way to do it. So I have some people here who are indicating their percentage marks. Now, it will depend on where these percentages are coming from. So the best thing to do there, and for anybody who has a particular case about whether I'm eligible or not, the best thing to do is to send us your transcripts and your CV at international@audencia.com, and we'll let you know there. Based on what you're presenting here, I think I know what the system is, and I think I know what the percentage is, and I'm thinking that you're going to be eligible for the programs, especially since you have an MSc. And then after, it really kind of depends on what type of master you're looking for. It looks like you did an MSc in economics before. So I think that there are a variety of different programs that you can look into. After, it's more of a question of what your career goals are. And a lot of times I like to start with that when I'm working with students about what program is right for you. There's not just like a best program. The best program is the program that gets you to the career that you have. And so always focus on the career path in the end. But I can understand sometimes people who might be working in an industry or coming from a particular background, they might not know what they want to do. So I just have one other piece of advice in order to get perspective on maybe what types of programs might be right for you. So LinkedIn is a great resource. I think most people know what LinkedIn is here. If not, you can see here on this last slide, it's indicated on the lower right-hand side. Basically, it's a social network for professionals. A great way to get some ideas about what types of programs might be right for you is, one, take a look at people who have the job that you want and look at what they studied to get there. And the nice thing about LinkedIn too is it is all about making connections and communicating with people. So it's not like the same as, say Facebook, where maybe you just want to keep it with people that you know or anything like that. Like they're there to create networks, and people are very open about talking about themselves too. So the nice thing about LinkedIn is if you ask somebody a question who has a job that you want, say, I'm thinking about getting into this. Do you have any advice for me? Maybe they would say, well, if I had to do it all over again, I would probably do this type of degree, because things change over time as well. But they have real insight as to how to perform well in those types of careers. So that's always my piece of advice is start at the end, start with the end goal. Think of these programs as like vehicles that are going to get you to that goal. And if you're not sure exactly what that goal is, you can't look people up to say, hey, how did you get here and how did you do that? Really just kind of don't even think about what you're supposed to do. Sometimes people are thinking like, oh, well, I want to be a pilot or something like that. But you'd be surprised the type of background that people have to have in order to be able to work in avionics. And that can give you a good idea about the types of programs to start looking into, whether it's engineering or the types of business that's involved in it. So that's just my piece of advice. Okay, moving along. What are the requirements for applying for EIFL scholarships? This one is really on topic. So I'll go through this again. Maybe I didn't go into it deep enough. So I think this is a really great point to do that. In order to be eligible for the Eiffel Scholarship, you have to have never applied for it before, and you have to be enrolled in a program by December 1st. So when I was talking about earlier, there's a November 1st application deadline. That means you have to submit an application to us for one of our programs by November 1st. The reason why is because you not only have to submit that application, but you have to go through all the other stuff too. You have to do the interview. The response can be up to 2 weeks. So you have to have time in order to be able to get that response. And if you're admitted, you then have to register on the program by December 1st. So that's the real deadline, is December 1st registration, but you're not going to be able to get registered by December 1st if you don't submit the application by November 1st. Then students that are registered for the Master in Management program or the Engineering Management program, they get nominated in January. So we do the paperwork for you. It goes to a French organization. We fill it out for you. We're probably going to contact you to have some additional information that we can put onto your application, but we find out about the results in April. Now, since we do ask you to register, right, you have to pay that 3,000 euros in order to be registered on the program, but you won't find out about Eiffel until April. So what happens is that if you're accepted for the Eiffel Scholarship, we expect you to come. It's a really prestigious scholarship. Like I said, it pays 1,000, 200 per month. They help with housing, they pay for flights, everything. So when you get it, we expect you to come. So that 3,000 euros is non-refundable. We expect you to be part of that program. But if you are not accepted for the Eiffel Scholarship, if you were nominated, but in April they get back to us and say your application was not accepted, we will refund the 3,000 euros. It's a big decision that has huge impacts on your budgets and whether you're going to be able to study or not. And we understand that. So if you're not nominated, or if you're nominated for the scholarship but don't get it, then we'll refund those 3,000 euros. So hopefully that helps. I don't speak English. I speak French very well. Well, you must be using some good translation software here, because it looks like you're writing very well. The problem is that even for our programs that are in French, we do require people to speak English, except for one particular bachelor's level program. So if you are looking for a bachelor's degree program that can be taught entirely in French without knowing any English, let us know at international@audencia.com, and we'll connect you with that very specific program that almost all of our programs have that minimum English required. Are there research centers or institutes at Audencia that focus on particular areas of business and management? Yeah, indeed. I mean, specifically sustainability. So sustainability is a big part of our history. We've worked with the United Nations on it. We work with World Wildlife Fund. So we have helped to create this specific research center that's called the Gaia Institute. And it's basically about how do you incorporate sustainability in all sorts of different industries and business practices. I mean, it's really our contention that you can't separate people, profit, and planet and business anymore. I mean, even if you were a person that is just very much, not thinking about sustainability, you're still impacted by it. There's regulatory environments. Your clients are expecting you to maintain a certain stance vis-a-vis the planet. So, even if you don't really care so much about sustainability, it's a part of business anyway. And we're really a leader that's been around, like I said, helping the UN to develop their principles of responsible management education. We're first signatory on the UN Global Compact. So it's a history that goes way back, and we're really well known. We can go on to some other institutes, but I kind of want to go on to some other ones. But if you're interested, contact us at international@audencia.com. Can I enroll and apply for a scholarship before I get a visa? Yeah, absolutely. In fact, you're going to apply for a program and apply for a scholarship before you find out about admissions, which is necessary to register, which is necessary to get a visa. So it's well before the whole visa application process that you're going to find out about applications of visas. There's a question about, can I get any kind of discount for the visa? The visa application process is through the government, and that doesn't have anything to do with us. So unfortunately, we don't have any sort of way to reduce the price of the cost of processing a visa. So I apologize for that. A question about internships and whether they're paid. So this is a question that mainly focuses on where you're doing an internship, because in some countries, paid internships are paid by law. They have to be. And in some countries, it's an option. a lot of good companies will pay for good interns, but it's not always the case. So, for example, here in France, any internship that's done is paid by law. And that's part of the process that sort of our career counselors work with you on. You know, let's say you wanted to do an internship in the US, but it's an unpaid one, a really good company that maybe you want to work with in the future. Well, then in that case, since that law doesn't dictate that it has to be paid, it could be a good investment of time if you really want to work with that company. If it's more about, say, recouping costs and being able to, cover your costs of living, that's something that maybe then you would want to focus more on Europe as a destination for doing your internships. Let's see. Questions about student associations. We have a ton of them. We've got associations that are linked to volunteer organizations, ones that are linked to cinema and gaming and sports and music. And it's a great way to be able to meet with people that have similar interests. I think, if you're planning on studying abroad, one of the challenges is being far away from family and from, people that you know and things that are comfortable. And a great way to be able to bridge that gap and to sort of get away from that homesickness is to build up a community around you. And an important part of that is meeting people who have similar interests. It's just so much easier to be able to build that network and community around you when you have people that already share similar interests. And we even have some clubs and associations that are there specifically to facilitate these sort of networks between international and domestic students. So they're called the International Connections Team, and they hold different events, around different international holidays so that people can share their culture with others. And there's lots of different activities in order to be able to mix these two publics together. Let's see, are there additional language requirements? So the language requirements that we focus on are the English language requirements since we teach in English. So you're not going to need to submit any sort of French language test or anything like that. If you already have a good level of French, you could submit those certificates and get some bonus points, but it's not a requirement for our programs. And questions about class sizes. So all of our class sizes revolve around 30 to 35. We always split them into different groups. Just because pedagogically, that's the best way to work. We work a lot in teams and in group work and presentations, and that will involve you, working with people that that you get to be able to build these connections with, this interaction that's really important. So in all of our programs, you're going to see 30 to 35. Now, that might mean that in a program, there could be like 10 groups, but you're going to get to know your groups. And each semester, you might switch to different groups to get to know and to mix with different people. But each semester, you're going to have a core group of 30 to 35 people that you're going to be working with regularly so that you can really kind of build on these sort of relationships that you grow during. Okay. Let's see. Let's talk about housing. Could I go back to the PowerPoint? So there's somebody requesting that I go back to the PowerPoint about housing. I won't go through all the information, but maybe you'll be able to pick something up if I just kind of leave it here on the screen. Let's see. I would say there's somebody saying you're welcoming our students on a semester exchange every year. I think you could probably put that down in for the Solidarity Scholarship section, and it would be helpful. This one is much more based on sort of solidarity with others, and I think that would be a great element to add into your scholarship application. So my friend from South Africa that's welcoming our students, I would suggest the Solidarity Scholarship and putting that information in that part of the application. Do we have a calendar for the next academic year? So it's not going to be fixed. There are general ideas of sort of when things will begin and when things will end. So for example, everything that stays the same is the winter holidays that you'll have. You'll have fall breaks and spring breaks. Typically classes begin in the first week of September or the last week of August, depending on the year, and they'll end the end of May and the beginning of June each year. You'll have a large winter break in the middle, and you'll have an even larger summer break where a lot of times people are doing internships or they're doing some additional courses that are offered during our summer terms. And then shorter, say, 1 week, 10-day breaks, both in the fall and in the spring. So assisting, there's questions about how do we assist students to find housing. Right here on this slide kind of goes back. Just real quick, we have a platform where admitted students are going to be able to search for housing that's right for them. There are a couple of people asking about, hey, I'm a midwife, can I apply? Of course. There's no limit on any sort of backgrounds. And I think that a lot of times we'll take people from non-traditional backgrounds who want to learn business for a variety of different reasons. What if you wanted to start your own business? Helping people through the birthing process. Well, you'll want to learn something about entrepreneurship. So I think business is a great way to be able to mix other backgrounds because business mixes with everything, basically. So, you're not always able to go from one background into, let's say, a master's degree in physics or, biology, but fortunately, business is one of those areas where it allows you to really kind of mix. Question is usually the length of the program. The further that you are away from, say, business topics, normally the longer the program is, but it's just a question of a lot of times length and specialty that will depend on your background. But I think everybody has capacity to come in and learn business. Do we offer French courses? We do have French courses. They're optional though, because like I said, we teach in English, but of course, you're going to be living in France, so we want to be able to help people who do want to learn French. Here in the business faculty, we generally do more like survival to intermediate level courses, and you do those in the evening. It's usually about 1.5 hours per week in the evening. And really, it's just to kind of help you in day-to-day life when you don't know much. We are right across the street from the language faculty, though, and they have weekend courses that are much deeper, much for people who are at the advanced levels. So I would say that there are really kind of two different options there, either evening courses with us or with the language faculty across the street. Let's see. There's something about the sort of different competing schools. I mean, what I can say is what Audencia is known for, or really what we're best at, is this return on investment. This is our positioning. And once again, one of the reasons why I'm here to talk about scholarships is because of the importance of being able to lower that investment to get the most out of the education that you can get with us. I mean, I think when you're looking at programs that have similar rankings, there are differentiating factors, and ours really kind of relies on that professionalization. That whole process of, throughout the program, you're going to be working with career counselors to focus on what you're doing after graduation, and the career statistics are really there to say what the return is going to be. So I think, everybody has different priorities that they're looking for, but our main, or one of the things that I think that we do best is prepare people professionally so they can get the best return out of their studies with us. So I think I went through most of the questions here. I do apologize if I might have missed one. So there's one last question that came up about management engineering for 2 years. In that case, you would just go into the Master in Management program. It is really the same program, except management engineering is just for engineers. It's the accelerated format. So I would go into the Master in Management program. And I think that's it. If I did miss it, I really apologize. I try to keep up with everybody. You can always contact us at international@audencia.com. You can schedule a call with us. We can do this one-on-one. But hopefully the information tonight was useful. It'll help you with your application. And, if you're not applying with us, applying really anywhere, a lot of this information can be useful. But we hope that some of the information that we told you about us resonates with you, and maybe we'll see you in September.
Hello, everyone. Hi again. And first of all, thank you, Benjamin, for all the information shared and all of the questions you answered. And thanks to everyone for joining us. We still have a few questions, but I think you covered most of them. I mean, we have one last one that was just posted by Vivier that says, should I get registered for this semester? He gives us a little bit of context. He says, I'm still studying my degree and I will graduate on May 2024 and get my title. So should he enroll now?
Yeah, good question. I think this can apply for a lot of different people. So you mentioned a few different things that are very specific, but let me put it this way. If you are in the last year of your program, or if you're in the last year in order to be able to make you eligible for a program, you can still apply now. This happens quite a bit. So think about it like when you were applying for university. When you were in your last year of high school, a lot of people were applying for universities at that time. And like I said, the really smart thing to do is to apply early because that's where you get the scholarships from. Now, no matter what, if you're admitted to a program, it's always going to be conditional on you successfully completing your program. But it's not at all like unheard of or unlikely. In fact, the majority of people apply before they actually graduate from their current program. And let's say you're in, I'm going to give a very specific example because it'll help people to kind of understand. So we have second year entries into our bachelor's degree. Now that means you will have to have successfully completed your first year of university in order to be eligible for the second year. Now, how are you going to apply for that if you're applying right now and you're applying for second year entry into a bachelor? Well, what you'll do is you'll give your high school grades and you'll give an enrollment certificate showing that you're currently enrolled. Then, if you end up applying, say, in February or March, we're going to ask you for the results that you had in fall semester. So it's basically show us everything that you've done up until this point. And as long as by the time the program starts, you will have completed a program that satisfies the requirements, apply as early as you can. Is my suggestion. So hopefully I kind of covered the subject there. If you are in the last year of your bachelor's degree, you can apply for a master's degree. If you're in the last year of your high school, you can apply for a bachelor's degree. Absolutely normal and apply as early as possible.
Perfect. Thank you, Benjamin. I see that we still have a couple of questions left.
Right?
So yeah, I'm gonna go on and read the next one. Giovanni asks, is there a limit of age to apply for scholarships?
No, no, no. I mean, it doesn't really cover anything with age. So no, I don't see any reason why age would be considered on. Oh, wait. So government scholarships, that I have to put a caveat on. I didn't actually think about it, and that's a good point to bring up. There are some external scholarships. So any of the scholarships at Audencia, you don't have to worry about that. But if you're planning on applying to external scholarships, they have their own criteria, and sometimes you will see that there are age limits. But one of them is the Eiffel Scholarship. So that does have an age component to it. You have to be below a certain age in order to be able to apply for that. That is true.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Benjamin. So the next question is, do you have a career service or a job placement office, and can all students have access to that?
Totally. I mean, I think it's a big part. All of our programs have internships, and we can't expect our students to have internships if we don't give them help. So we have a big career service department. They have a few different activities that they do. They work with corporations on like research and things like that, because that's how you find a lot of these internships. They might like the research we're doing with them. So they go, hey, let's hire some Audencia students. We've got some people who focus specifically on career counseling. So like I said, a lot of times they used to work as headhunters, and headhunters are the people that work for large businesses in order to be able to find talent to work for them. So like they really have a good insider knowledge of what these businesses are looking for and can give students a really good training on how to successfully apply for programs or for internships and full-time jobs. And they do a lot of different things. Even from the very beginning, they can help people with psychometric testing if you're really not sure what types of industries or businesses would work best with your type of personality. They give you that sort of counseling. There's on-site recruitment fairs where we invite different businesses on and talk with their HR representatives to see the different internship opportunities they have. There's CV workshops, there's presentation. It's a big part of the program. I think we could really kind of go on and on about all the different career service boards. A lot of times we tend to focus on the academic aspects. What are the courses that I'm going to take? But like these are mandatory parts of the program that I think are just as important as any of the other courses that you're going to have on marketing or human resources or anything. So.
Absolutely. Thank you, Benjamin, for the answer. So let's move to the next question because we still have a few. The next one is, do you offer any grant or financial aid for students with disabilities, or maybe regarding housing?
Yes. So with housing, it's a little bit different because we don't actually own the different housing. But fortunately, on the platform, you're able to search based on those that have more accessible housing options. These are some of the facilities and options that I think the platform really allows for that helps out. quite a bit. And then after, I would say yes, the Solidarity Scholarship. These are ones where you can, you know, definitely apply uh, that type of criteria too. So yes.
Okay, perfect. So we also have a couple of questions about certificate, language certificate actually. And they ask, is it IELTS required for PhD?
Yeah. And actually, for us, it's going to be a DBA, which is a doctorate in business administration. But yeah, IELTS is required for almost all of our programs. I think earlier on in the presentation, I had talked about one specific program that can be done entirely in French, but really, like the vast, vast majority of our programs are going to be taught in English. So we do require IELTS 6.5, for example, is the minimum to apply. And the only way that people can get an exception for the English requirements is if they're a native language speaker, English speaker, or if they did their education entirely in English. If you graduated from a university in the UK, for example, you would get an exception.
Okay, great. And then we still have a couple of questions. Here we go back on the theme of housing because they ask us, how do you assist students to find housing? So maybe if we can circle back on
Yeah,
that quickly.
yeah. And I think it's still on my slide that's up. So you can see a little bit here about this platform that's called StudApart. And it really is a great platform because it looks at all sorts of different types of housing opportunities. It looks at ones that are close to the campus. It looks at ones that are downtown that are maybe like 15 minutes apart. And it breaks down on these different issues that you might be looking for. What type of facilities do you have, or is there parking available? You can look for different things, or you can even rank ones based on the rent or other, is Wi-Fi included? So yeah, I think it's a great platform. And the people who run it are like housing professionals, and they've got a really good customer service office. So there's like chat bots. There are chat boxes, not bots, but boxes that pop up, and you can interact with housing agents if you have questions. Or, like I said, they're really reactive, and they get back to you if you have specific needs, or you want information you can't find on the platform. They're there to help, and that's why we partnered with them, because we're great about teaching business, but the best thing to do when you're looking for housing is to partner with housing agents that can really help. And that's what's great about the platform.
Perfect, thank you. So we do have the last question here from Felipe, who joined us a little bit later, and he asks if there are any scholarship for master programs and which are the courses. So maybe if we can go back again on the slide.
Sure. Yeah, I'll just leave this one up because then it also has the link that you can go to. So there are two other slides that follow this, but basically, here's the Audencia scholarships that we have. There's ones that are based on when you apply. There's ones that's based on merit. There's ones that's based on need. Some are based on projects. There are external scholarships in the slides that follow. But if you go up to that link that's up at the top, you'll be able to search through. I'll kind of go through real quick just to show you what it's like. But if you go to the link, here are the external funding sources. Here are ones that are country specific. But yeah, that's the main site where it shows all of our different funding options. And once again, if you have questions about what does it mean, like what is academic merit? What does that mean? Contact us at international@audencia.com, and we can set up a call or answer any of your questions by email. We're really here to help.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Benjamin. So we're done with the question. We still have one last one, but that question is for me because they asked for the certificate of attendance. And if you want to receive one, you can click on the link that I just sent in the chat. And also, I would like to remind you all what Benjamin just told us. So if you want to ask any other question to him, just write an email to the address. Maybe, Benjamin, if you can write in the chat, or you want me to do that, it was...
Yeah, it's just international@audencia.com. I'll write it in the chat.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, right.
So I just wanted to also add a comment from Anna that says, I really appreciate the event. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Anna, for joining us. And I think that we are officially done with the questions right now. So thanks again, Benjamin, for being with us. And thanks again, everyone, for joining and for all of your questions. And I think we are done with the webinar, but before we leave, I would like to ask Benjamin if he has one last, advice maybe for the people that connected with us.
Yeah, it really is about timing. I mean, once again, there's no reason why you can't find funding or all of the right housing opportunities when you plan far enough in advance. And I really think that that's the key to being able to get the most out of your educational experience. So even if you don't apply to us, and I hope you do decide to take a look at us, but it's a good piece of advice for no matter where you're looking, apply early, and there are always more options than waiting until later on.
Absolutely, that's true. Okay, so we're done. And again, thanks to everyone. And I hope to see you again at the next webinar organized by Docstiy in partnership with the Audencia Business School. So thank you and have a nice evening. Bye.